Today we're reviewing a new microphone from a brand that we've never touched on this channel. This is the Feelworld PM1. It's a hybrid XLR USB microphone, and given some of the surprises we've had from other lesser known brands in North America, I'm really excited to see how this one turns out. In the box, you have the base for the desk stand, the documentation, the Feelworld PM1 with attached bracket, a small extender to connect the microphone to the base, a USB-C to USB-C cable, and an XLR cable. Having a look at the mic now, it's a really sturdy build. Not a huge fan of the windsock that they have on this. You can see it's actually taken a little bit of damage just being in the box, and it's not built flush with the whole body of the microphone. You can see it just ever so slightly puffs out outside just beyond this RGB ring here. But by the way, it has an RGB ring. In fact, it's like a big brother and little brother. The mount bracket has threads for 5/8 and 3/8 mounts, so if you have anything that's a 1/4 inch, you need to get an adapter for that. And on the back of the microphone, you'll see the XLR jack for connecting via XLR, the USB-C port for connecting directly to a PC, and the headphone jack for zero latency monitoring. On the top of the microphone, you see a knob that's actually for both your mic gain and your headphone volume, and that's what leads us to the little button below, which is capacitive button. That's your mute button if you give it a tap, but if you hold down on it, it actually switches between your headphones and your microphone so that the knob can control either or. So I'm very curious to get this thing up and running, so let's do that right now. And wipe. Okay, and here it is, the Feelworld PM1, all set up and ready to rock and roll. So a few first impressions. The LED ring does look really nice. It does a nice little cycle through the colors. It's a slow cycle, but it's nice nonetheless. I would like to be able to have a little bit of control over it, however. You can't really do anything. You can't speed up the animation, can't change the colors, you can't make it one solid color if you'd like. There's just no mechanism to allow you to customize it, which is kind of a bummer. And another thing, the knob right here, so you can't see it very well, which is kind of nice because I don't like when the knobs are just in view of the camera. It kind of takes away from the sleekness of some of these microphones. It would be nice to be able to access it a little bit better because I kind of have to reach in to get to it. That being said, I guess you set these things up ahead of time and you're not really worried about it midstream. The capacitive mute button is right here, so if I just tap on that, and then we come back, and then if I hold down on it, you'll see a little color change happened. And then what's interesting is when I turn up and down the gain, you can see it adjusting as I go quieter and then as I go louder, so you kind of know where it is. And I think that's a really cool feature that they've done here. And if I switch again for the headphones, you do the same thing, but it's worth noting that it's actually not going to change the microphone monitoring in your earphones. You're always going to hear that at a consistent level. It's only the input. So if you're playing something from a browser or you're listening to music or any of those sort of things, you're controlling the volume for those. So right now we're hooked up to USB, and that's an important thing to note because this RGB ring would not be lit up right now if we were hooked up via XLR because there's nothing to power it. It's kind of a bummer actually, and something that maybe they should not do for the XLR USB hybrids. You shouldn't have anything on this microphone that doesn't work if you use one feature over the other. A lot of hybrid microphones, including this one right here, this is the Rode PodMic USB. You'll see that it's a very pretty microphone even though there's no RGB on it, but most importantly, you're presenting the exact same microphone whether you're in USB or XLR mode. Although if I could put my consultant hat on for just a second, what I would do in terms of design for these hybrid microphones, at least these ones that are like one-off that aren't like a part of a bigger brand, design them a little bit more like the HyperX Quadcast S, where the RGB exists underneath the grill of the microphone. So without it turned on, it just looks like a normal microphone. This ring right here is an indication that RGB should be on, but if it was hidden underneath, you would never know that. And it's just a pretty cool effect overall. So just from what I'm hearing in my headphones right now, I'm enjoying the sound. It's a bassier microphone because it is a podcast microphone. That's the PM and PM1. But I'm going to hold off on going back to listen to it until after I've also hooked it up via XLR so I can compare the two. Just from talking into the microphone, I can tell there's no real internal pop filter to this, and the actual windscreen isn't doing a whole lot. The plosives and the sibilants are pretty rough. So to just give you an example of that, we'll do one of our test phrases. Press the pants and sew a button on the vest. So the sibilants isn't so bad in my ear, but the plosives were something awful. So just keep that in mind when you're doing this. You might want to consider adding a pop filter because you actually want these microphones to be close to your mouth. And I feel like anything else you do, either moving the mic further away from your face or lowering the gain more or anything like that, when you have to go back and actually make up for that lost sound, you're just going to introduce more noise into the channel. But I'm really impressed overall with the sensitivity of the capsule. Like if I get right into this, you can get some good ASMR going. Hey everybody, why don't you like this video and subscribe to the channel? You hit the notification bell and you'll find out when other videos get released. Sometimes I release shorts too, but I usually don't turn the notifications on for that. Okay, so we're going to take a second. We're going to switch it over to XLR and see if we can hear any difference. And now we're set up on XLR. You can see the cable right here indicating that. You can also see, as I said, the RGB ring is no longer working. Also, headphones are plugged into my audio interface. I'm plugged into the Rodecaster Duo right now because this is no longer powered thanks to the USB not being plugged in. So it's just important to remind people who don't know about these things, none of the things on this are going to work anymore. I can't mute via this. I can't do anything. It's all going to be done through the audio interface now. But as far as what you were listening to, I have this completely unprocessed right now. I've turned all the processing off. There's no presets, anything like that going on, because I wanted to be able to hear a difference between the XLR signal with nothing going and to see what the actual potential of an actual audio interface can do to this thing compared to what you're doing via USB. Something that I'm hearing as I'm listening to myself talk, it's not as bassy in my ears as it was when I was listening through the actual microphone, but I think that has a lot more to do with just the preamp that was in there. It's boosting the bass going to my headphones compared to what's actually going on in the Rodecaster Duo right now. I'll have to actually look at both recordings to be sure, but that's kind of where I think we're at right now. But now what I'm going to do, I'm actually going to do this in real time. I'm going to turn the processing on, but I'm going to use a preset. There's a podcast studio preset in here that I'm going to use, and I mean, hey, play to the strengths, right? So let's go ahead and do that. So I'm going to hit the presets button here, hit podcast studio, and it's going to take a second. Testing. Now you can hear a little bit of a difference there, can you not? If I look at everything now, settings for noise gate, equalizer, compressor, everything has all been pre-done for me. It's a real nice feature that you can have if you're not really good at setting that stuff up yourself. But I wanted to use a preset because I didn't want to hear down in the comments, oh, you set it up a certain way if you didn't like the way it sounded or something like that. This is just the way that this is spitting it out according to a preset, so we can't be mad at it. Really? But overall, according to what I'm hearing in my headphones anyways, I'm really enjoying the way this sounds. It's that really good boomy, bassy podcast sound without being too over the top. And the little bit of ambient noise that I was still hearing before all of that was turned on is now completely gone. So it sounds like a really nice, clean studio sound. But what I want to do now is give you my overall impressions of the audio quality. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to step back, I'm going to listen to these audio recordings, both the USB and the XLR version, processed and unprocessed, and give you my overall thoughts. So give me a minute and I'll be right back. All right, so I'm back, and my impressions while I was listening to this thing as we were recording is pretty much the exact same as when I was listening to the recordings themselves. The USB sound was really nice, but the XLR was just a little bit richer. That's just an analog versus digital thing. That's always going to be the way it is. Well, I probably shouldn't say always, because we know how technology works. It's going to make a fool out of me. Because remember when you used to look at an old PlayStation game and you'd be like, the graphics will never get better than this. Well, we're 5 PlayStations in and it got a lot better. And then when the processing was turned on, it's actually interesting the things that really made a difference for me. The little bit of the raise in the high frequency was really nice. I did notice that. And the high pass filter actually cut out a lot of that excess room noise. I heard a notable difference, especially in the silence between the two. But now the question comes to you. I had music playing during both of those things when you were listening to them. Were you able to tell a difference in the room noise? Let me know down in the comments. This is one of those things where it's like, it means a lot to me when you're just kind of like working on it like this. Then when you start to add sound design, if you're talking about music or game audio, chat, whatever, that stuff tends to usually go away. So my advice to you, work on the things that improve your vocals first and then find out what the distractions are later. And now we get to the price, which was a surprise for sure. This particular model of the Feelworld PM1 is $69.99 US, but there is a cheaper version. This exact same microphone without the stuff to have a desk stand is actually $10 cheaper. You can get it for $59.99 US. My personal opinion as to whether or not you get the one with the desk stand or you just get one you can throw up on the mic arm, get it up on a mic arm. Save yourself $10 on this, but also keep this closer to your face. The only time I would ever suggest a desk stand is when you're in a situation where a mic arm just won't work. You're setting up around a dining room table that can't actually clamp on a mic arm. You're mobile and it's just impractical to bring a mic arm, things like that. But if you're just at your home setup, just do arm. But thinking about that, $60 or $70 is still less than half the price of some of the microphones I've been testing lately, and I legitimately think that this has a much better out-of-the-box sound. But let me know down in the comments what you think about the Feelworld PM1. Hey everybody, Joe from the future here. I actually recorded this quite a while ago, well before I actually started doing my review matrix, so I thought that I'd dip in right now and do it. So first off, we have design, and it's a really well-built microphone. It's very solid. The fact that they made it a hybrid XLR USB microphone is fantastic, but I had some nitpicky problems with this. I had the problem with the windscreen puffing out over the side. Like for example, by comparison, you can see how well on the beacon mic, how well the windscreen is flushed out with the rest of the mic. That just wasn't the case there. It's a small thing, but it's a thing. And then I mentioned the challenge actually trying to get to the knob knob based on the way it was laid out. And the addition of the RGB ring, while I like to have RGB on a microphone, the fact that it's very visible when it's plugged in via XLR that it's not there and it's not actually active. Unless, of course, you decided to also plug in the USB cable, which, let's face it, is really redundant. It's just something I didn't like because it's a feature that you can't see all the time. So I'm going to give design a 7.5. Functionality, it does everything you expect it to do. All the controls work well. Again, talking about the fact that it's a hybrid microphone and the adaptability of that is really great. There was just nothing on the microphone that really set itself apart from anything else. And while it was really cool that they put an RGB ring on the microphone, the fact that they gave you no way to control it or customize it was a little bit of a problem for me. So we'll give functionality an 8. Now features, this is where it's tough because it has all of the base level features that you would expect a microphone like this to have, but that's really all it has. There's no software, there's no processing, there's no kind of customization to it at all. I'm going to give features a 5, but we'll talk about why that's not a terrible thing in a minute. Quality, there was absolutely no denying out of the box. It sounded fantastic. And while yes, the processing through the Rodecaster Duo did brighten up the vocals a little bit, it wasn't necessary. Had I never utilized that, it would have been really, really good still. My only tiny little thing was the ambient noise that was coming in on the microphone. So we're going to go ahead and give quality a 9. And for value, this one is a no-brainer. This is one of the cheapest microphones we've actually reviewed on this channel. Sounds fantastic out of the box. It's really well built, and it does XLR and USB. 10 out of 10 for value. So that gives us a 38.5 out of 50, or 79%. And that sounds low for how much I liked about the microphone. And obviously the features is what really knocked that down. But here's the thing about the review matrix itself. You don't always need to have everything to be high on that. If you don't need a microphone that has a ton of features, you can kind of discount that from the matrix altogether. I give you 5 categories to look at, and then you just have to decide which of those categories is important to you. If they're all important to you, then great. You take the whole score and you go with it. Keep in mind, 79 still not a bad score at all. But when you look at all the scores outside of the features, you can see that we're still telling the story about a very good microphone. Now let's go back to me in the black shirt. People have been very pleasantly surprised with similar microphones in previous videos. If you're still with me, that's your cue to hit the like and subscribe, ring the notification bell so you know when I got new videos coming out. And why don't you stick around with me and take a look at one of these videos. These are a couple of other XLR USB hybrids. Don't forget to click these guys down here to subscribe to my channels. And until next time, my friends, let's get to work.